Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more episode of the Athletic School podcast. Today, our guest speaker is an outstanding track and field athlete, Kileigh Kane. She has set impressive records, earned many awards, and has been a key part of some of the fastest relay teams at Penn State. Kileigh, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So I had to summarize this like a lot because there's a lot of things on your bio, a lot of awards, a lot of records, a lot of good things, a lot of wins. So I guess my first question for you is, what does winning means to you?
Well, okay, first of all, I guess just establish that winning isn't always about crossing the finish line first. Winning can be a PR on the track or like in lift or, anything. It's not always about crossing the line first. So I think to me though, like the main thing about winning is just the culmination of everything that I've been doing to get to that point, whether it was winning a race or setting a PR or reaching a goal. It was just it all comes down to like what I did to get to that point. Was my training good? Was my fueling good? Was my hydration good? It's just the culmination of everything that I did leading up to that point that got me
Mhm.
there.
So you mentioned hydration and training. What are some of the other things that takes you to the finish line and sometimes to be the first one, but sometimes just to be your PR?
Well, fueling and hydration, obviously. I think the little things are so important for me. That's just making sure I'm staying on top of stretching, doing band work. I have not great hip mobility, so I do a lot of hip mobility exercises with bands, and then lifting, hurdle drills, abs, just all of the little things.
Gotcha. And I mean, you have been competing in a high level for a long time now. You're going to your sixth year now. Um, what would you say that what does it take to become a student athlete in a high level? What are some of the things that you think it takes?
I think just being bought in to yourself and to your training. I feel like there's tons of people out there that enjoy doing sports, but they're not completely bought in. And I think when you get to a point where you're fully bought in, that's when you get to the next level. So it's just being bought into yourself, trusting fully in your training and in your coaches and everything that you're doing to reach the goals that you have set for yourself.
What do you mean by bought in?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like,
I guess just like fully immersing yourself in your training and just like you're 100% focused on this, like, because I mean I dealt with an injury my sophomore year. That's how I have this 6 year of eligibility, that and COVID. But I I went through a phase during this injury process where I almost quit running, and I just like was not immersed in the process anymore, just because I just kept getting injured and I was not enjoying it at all. And my mom was really like my backbone at that point, like just reminding me like how much I do love to run. And eventually I found my love for the sport again, and I was able to reach these levels that I'm competing at now. But I think just getting to a point where you're like, okay, like I have these goals, and if I want to reach them, I need to be 100% in on
mhm.
this.
And I mean, you mentioned, doing band work, hydration, all those things. Um, what, what else? Like, what actions do you take when you are fully committed? What actions don't you take? Like, do you go out? Do you try to go to bed early? What are some, like, what does your daily routine looks like when you feel like you are fully committed?
Yeah, well, I think everything is okay in moderation. Like, if you're going out and partying, that's okay sometimes, as long as it's not anything crazy and you're not getting hammered every weekend. I think like a drink or two every now and then is totally fine. I think as a runner, fueling is absolutely one of the most important things to stay healthy and make sure you have enough energy to complete your training. So making sure that you're on top of that. I talk to our school's nutritionist once every couple months just to ensure that my fueling is good and I'm getting enough calories in, enough protein. I'm a vegetarian, so sometimes I have trouble with protein, which is really important as a runner. So I have a lot of protein shakes, protein powder, stuff like that to make sure I can get an adequate amount. Yeah, band work. I'm always at practice early. I'm one of the first ones there, one of the last ones to leave because I go in, I talk to my coaches. I have a great relationship with my coaches, and I think that definitely plays into having success on the track. Last to leave, I'm always in the training room getting treatment work done, ice bath or hot bath, stuff like that, making sure I'm lifting and I'm lifting like well, like I'm trying to do the exercises well, and I'm trying to set lift PRs and stuff like that. And always just like having a positive mindset too. Like obviously everyone has bad days sometimes, but I think if you go into practice or you go into a workout or a race with a negative mindset and you just think that it's going to go poorly, then it probably is. Mindset is everything.
Yeah. Two things. First, I'm vegan, so I understand what you go through
Oh,
like 100%. Probably even a little bit more because I don't have some stuff that you can
you
have.
can have
Yeah.
yeah.
Another thing is you mentioned about the mindset, and I was also listening to a podcast, and they were talking about creatine, right? So how creatine is good for you, and like how it's proven that you get results out of it and everything. So they did a study with that with creatine, and they found how good it was. And then they made another study just with the placebo effect. So just telling people that they were taking creatine, but they weren't taking anything, and they had just
Mm-hmm.
as much results. Right. So the belief that they were having creatine was just as good as taking creatine. So yeah, I agree with you, and I think mindset's a huge thing, and that's why I bring people here to talk about their mindset because
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it's one of those little things that you mentioned at the beginning that makes a huge difference. Um, you mentioned I was going to ask you about relationships, and you mentioned your mom, you mentioned your coaches. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what's the importance of having good relationships, within the team that you are, but also around
Mm-hmm.
you, like family, boyfriend, and everything?
Yeah. Well, team wise, I when I started running in high school, I developed really close relationships with my coaches. They were like a second set of parents to me. So it was really important that I have a similar relationship to my college coaches. Just because it's important to me to have a close bond because like I have a little bit of an unconventional way of training just because I am injury prone and I get like tendonitis all the time and just like little things like that. So having a good relationship with my coach allows me to like open communication with him where I can ask like why am I doing this training? How did you come up with this? Can we switch these days around? Like can I go to this race? It looks really cool. Like can you do this for me or can we talk about this? And I think that if I didn't have as good of a relationship with him that I do, it would be harder to discuss those things and maybe I wouldn't even do
Mhm.
that. So, and it's also like I'm a I'm a big jokester. Like I like having fun and making jokes like with my coaches, with my friends, with my family. So, it's nice to be able to do that with him too and not have to really like close that part of myself off at practice. So that's really important. My mom, super important to me, always reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing and sends me, motivational texts on race day and just reminds me like you can do this. Like you've been working so hard. Like this is all you. You got it. So super awesome that she does that for me. It really does help me on race days when I'm really nervous. She calms me down. Um, Teammates and friendships on the team so important as athletics. It's so difficult. Everyone deals with it differently, but being able to have supportive teammates and close friends that can be a backbone to you and support you when you're going through hard times or just be there to give you a pat on the back if you're having a bad workout is really important because they're really just what gets you through college. And then yeah, relationships outside of the team, like classmates, significant others, it's really important too. Because in college, your whole world kind of revolves around the sport. So being able to establish friendships outside of that and just have a little, pod away from athletics is really important because you don't want your whole world to revolve around it, even though it likely will.
Hmm. You mentioned that your mom reminds you why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you doing what you're doing?
Well, I love it. That's the main thing. Like I really truly do love running, but sometimes like when it's hard or I'm struggling or I'm really nervous for a race, she just sends me like really nice texts or we'll talk beforehand and she just tells me like think about where you used to be, like think about that year that you were injured and this is all that you wanted to do, like all you wanted to do was run and race, like think about that, think about all the hardships that you've gone through to get to where you are, like you've earned the spot on this line, like you deserve to be here just as much as everyone else. And it's just like it's really nice that she gives me those reminders when I'm having a hard time or I'm really
Hmm.
nervous.
Do you feel like you love the process of getting ready for a race? Do you just feel like you like the race itself, or do you like, I don't know, winning, the progress? What is it that you love?
I love it all, honestly. I know that's like probably like duh, but I mean, like I love working out and I love to push myself in workouts and then they like pushing myself in a workout allows me to see like where I'm going to be in a race. And obviously like on race day everyone's nervous. Like you barely get your breakfast down and you're just like counting down the hours until like this is finally over and I can be done with this. But so that part's like not so
Yeah.
awesome because like no one wants to sit in a ball of anxiety all day long. But once the gun goes off and I'm out there, I'm like, okay, like I know what I'm doing. Like this is my plan. Like this is what I'm meant to do. Like I kind of like to get in a good headspace for a race, I tell myself like this is your role today, like this is what you have to do. And it's really helped me this whole school year, like I'm or this past school year, like I was like, okay, like you're gonna go out and if you want to run, let's say when I was running 432, I'm like, this is your job today. Like you're running 432. Or when we ran the DMR where we got number 7 all time, it was like your job today is to anchor this DMR and get a nationals qualifying time. So that kind of helps me because then I'm like, okay, like this is my job. Like this, I have to do this.
Hmm. And what when you don't do the job? What does it go through your head when you don't achieve what you're supposed to achieve?
Yeah. Well, indoor season, fortunately, I didn't have many of
That's.
those days, but outdoor season, I kind of went through it. I feel like I had a really good indoor season, and then outdoor season, it was kind of like, it was very up and
Mhm.
down. I feel like I was just emotionally exhausted. So the first time that it happened, I was just like kind of a mess, and I just talked to my coaches and was like, this is what's going on with me. Like I just maybe sit the next race out and get back in a good headspace and then we can go from there. So I think when it doesn't go my way and when I don't do what I plan to do or hoped to do, it's just like take a step back, like be upset about it for the day and then just move on because if I'm dwelling on it then I'm not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, I love the fact that being upset for the day. I think that helps a lot. I think a lot of people don't do it, and we should do probably more and kind of like reflect. I think it's okay for like, yeah, let's feel bad about it, but then tomorrow we can pick it up again, right? Because and then if we just keep trying and trying, sometimes it just we don't go anywhere, and I mean it's just hurting us more than just helping us in general.
Mhm.
Um, what's the biggest lesson that you learned throughout all these years running, being a high performer in a higher level? Well, I mean, if you have more than one, I'll take it. But what's the biggest lesson that you learned?
Probably don't play the comparison game. I feel like a lot of people get caught up in that. And like, I know this is cliche, but like, comparison really is the thief of joy. Like, if you're on Instagram and you're just like looking at what everyone else is doing, or like runners, we have this app Strava where we upload all of our training. And if you're following all of these people on Strava and looking at their training and it's getting in your head, like just delete the app. Don't go on it. Like I mean, I went through that and I was just like, okay, like I have to like delete social media, like delete Strava, or like don't look at this anymore because it's just getting in my head and it's making me like more anxious than I should be, because I'm just comparing myself to these people. And like, you know, everyone's training looks different and training works differently for everyone, and you really don't know what's going on behind what someone puts on social media anyways. Like someone could be winning races and posting like, I had this awesome race, things are going great, and then who knows, like they could actually really be struggling. And it's just
Yeah.
like you shouldn't compare, because social media is like a big highlight reel anyways. So I think even your own teammates, like you're seeing that in person too, and you know, comparing yourself to teammates who may be outperforming you, or they look like they're hydrating better or fueling better, and you want to be like that too. And you can be like, you can work like these things that you can work on, but comparing yourself to other people who you think are doing it better is just going to get you nowhere.
Hmm. And I feel like that's so tricky, especially on your sport, because like the comparison is right there on the next lane. Um,
Yes.
do you feel like comparison, it could be a good thing though? Like how, because I feel like a lot of people compare themselves and end
Hmm.
up digging that hole, and it becomes the thief of joy, 100%. But on the other hand, I think some people compare themselves, but they push themselves because of that comparison. Uh, did that
Yes.
happen to you at all? Do you feel like that sometimes?
Yeah, I definitely do that, but I think I'm smart about it. Like I won't compare myself to someone else's like jump in training. Like I might be like, oh wow, like that's crazy that they did that, but I won't be like, why didn't that happen to
Yeah.
me? I'll compare myself to my past self. Like I'll be like, oh, like I PR'd by only 2 seconds last outdoor season, but this outdoor season I PR'd by 5 seconds. Like that's awesome, because that means like my training is paying off, like all of this stuff. So I think it can be good. And like you said, running is a sport where the people that you're comparing yourself to are right next to you on the start line, and you've got to race them for 5, 10, 15 minutes. So it definitely is hard, but I think it can be fine if you're not going overboard with
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, I think having the right mindset again, and being, having the smart mindset helps a lot when to compare ourselves, right? Because I mean, yeah, it's tricky. There's two sides of that, and if we just look at one side, then yes, it's never gonna be good. Never gonna help us getting anywhere. Um, if you could share one piece of advice with the entire world, let's say, Kylie Kane has a billboard that the entire world is gonna see. What does he say?
Um okay,
Okay.
two. The first one is, so when I have a goal for myself, or it can be a goal like sometime like last year it was let's make nationals as a team again for cross country, or it can be a time goal. So when I have goals like that, I write them out on a piece of paper and I put it next to the door to my room so I see it every time I leave my room. Or you can put it on a mirror. I did that in high school, so that you're looking at your goals every day and like giving yourself a reminder, like this is what I want to accomplish, like let's think about how I can accomplish those things. So I think that's a good piece of advice, and I know other people that do that too, and I have found it really helpful. There was a period of time where I didn't do it, and I was like, let's do this again, like let's just see how it goes. And it was really helpful. Like every day I left my room and I saw like qualify for indoor nationals, and then in the back of my head every time I had a workout or I had a race, it was like let's do this. You want to qualify for nationals, like let's see what you can do, like let's see, like get around the track one more time for this workout, like this is what's going to take you to nationals. Or like, okay, last 200, like press the gas, give it everything you got. Like maybe this will be the race where you get that nationals qualifying
Mhm.
time. So I think that's something that not everyone does, or maybe they don't know that they can, but I think that's a really awesome thing that people can do. And the other thing would just be, when the going gets tough, just keep at it. I kept at it after my sophomore year. I wanted to quit, and I had conversations with people about hanging up my spikes for good, just because the injuries just kept coming. It was just a big, like, 8 month long cycle of multiple injuries, and I thought that I was done. And I thought if I came back to running, it wasn't going to be anywhere near where I was previous to the injuries. But you just keep going. Like, I know that running was a sport that I loved to do, and I may have fallen out of love with it during the injury cycle, but I knew that if I got back there, then it could be so good again. So even when it's really hard and you want to give up, and maybe you do give up, maybe you give up for a little bit of time, just keep going, keep trying, keep working at it, and the goals that you have set for yourself could be just right around the corner.
I love it. On the first one, there's a movie called The Secret. I don't know if you watched it before, which talks about the law of attraction a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think, and it doesn't matter if we believe it or not on the law of attraction and manifestation, but I think just seeing the goal there, uh, it just changes the chemicals in our brain, and it helps us figuring something out so we can get there. And I actually have like a vision board on my phone, like from Pinterest. And
Mm-hmm.
the other day, like sometimes I don't even look at it, but every time I open my phone, it's there. And
Mm-hmm.
I was taking a look, and everything that I had there, I achieved it somehow. It's not necessarily the same, but it's very similar from what I have. And it's just crazy to see how life works.
Yes. Yeah, I have that. I have one of my phone backgrounds is a little quote, and it's even if I'm not like actively reading it all the time, I'm still seeing it every day, and it's still subconsciously in my
Yeah,
brain.
100%. And then the other one, I truly believe in doing something. Like we have to push a little bit. I think there's no value if you just quit at all the times. All times. I'm actually doing this challenge this week from the Daily Stoic. That it's supposed to be challenge that makes your life a little harder. So when you face an obstacle, you are kind of like more prepared in a way. um, and some are very easy, some are very difficult. So one is like ask for help with a critical task, but the other one is like take a 24-hour vow of poverty, sleep on the ground and be silent for 24 hours. So I think uh, I think it goes a little bit with what you said in terms of just like we have to understand that life is not easy, and especially if we wanted to achieve something, right, it's not always going to be easy. And I think just getting out of the comfort zone, it's a must if we want to grow. There is
Mhm.
no growth in the comfort zone. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. uh, Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I love to
Yes.
dive into people's mindset, because for me it's just so exciting. I learn a lot. Like even if nobody's listening to the podcast, I'm learning a lot. So it definitely it's helpful. It's insightful. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you for asking. Thanks for having me.
Yes.